Hold your horses, girls. We first gotta let the dog sniff those for things we can't really describe on this site. We open this week with Tanaka as we learned his morning routine, which includes stretching so much that he had about 5 feet to himself. From there, he proved to be a man of good taste who understands the value of drip coffee. He also noted how he still hadn't gotten rid of a couple of squatters in his house, but of course the courts are gonna take ages to process these cases and probably won't even do anything in the end. Still, at least he got a little more peace and quiet when Precure left to see Uta for the day, which was then ruined when Marilyn woke up. The words of someone who's about to get a restraining order. As a result, the fairy did her usual routine with Uta, forcing Tanaka to give chase. Yeah, I'm not gonna lie, this joke is kind of run its course. I mean, can't we get some kind of joke that's a little bit different for the show?
しかし、どうしても思い出してしまいます。かつてのトラウマを。
Was this supposed to be a cross promotion with Happy Gilmore 2? Yeah, probably worth mentioning that this week's writer was Akiko Inoue, who, as we said, is also the head writer of Gojuju this season. Yet, I'm not even sure if that show's out there comedy took it this far, like sweet Jesus. Anyway, things managed to settle down as Kokoro and Nana arrived, as the Precure and their audience were on summer vacation. Oh yeah, and some kids were on break too. Jokes aside, it was a little weird for the Precure to ask what Tanaka did for his summer break, even though clearly he's not in the middle of any sort of higher education, and was a working adult, or at least lived the facade of one. That said, it was also shocking to learn that he had not taken any sort of vacations in the past few decades. Like, sure, it does make a lot of sense they would have to work hard to establish an office for the Precure through likely a lot of menial part-time jobs that didn't ask for any proof of citizenship. But still, come on dude, take at least a staycation or something, or relax on the couch. Still, this was at least a good little bit of world building, as we now know how this team has any sort of credentials, as Tanaka has clearly done a lot of the legwork. Thus, rightfully, the Precure wanted to give him at least one day off, as much as the dude himself proved to be quite the workaholic.
ファンの方々から皆さんに送られてきた手紙やプレゼントの仕分け作業をしましょう。
That sounds like the worst job of them all. Thankfully, even his fairy friends understood the concept of karoshi, so they got involved too. Conversely, Zachary was becoming an unfortunate victim of the show's stubborn stance on de-emphasizing the antagonist to the point that he was the only working general at this point. The only very small bit of relief he could find was on the Precure's official YouTube. Oh yeah, Wings finisher that we haven't seen since, Episode 9, yeah, and I think we've only really seen it be used like 3 times over the course of this whole series. Yeah, it was at this point that the episode mostly stopped being a Tanaka episode, other than one scene of him checking in on the Precure, and instead was more about Nana and Zachary, which, yeah, honestly, I kind of like it. I mean, for one thing, this isn't just some blatant shipping or anything, as it's clearly meant to build towards a face turn for Zachary, which, unlike with Cuddy, just becoming a simp for the idol Precure, this actually feels kind of organic, with the villain very understandably needing some sort of relief that he wasn't going to get from Chokine. He needed a genuinely friendly influence in his life, like the Precure, or more specifically Nana, to consult him. In turn, as we just pointed out, the Blue Cure finally has something to do. Like, yeah, I've heard people argue that she's gotten little moments here and there of characterization, but really, I don't really see it that way, at least in terms of actual development. Like, really, after her debut episode, what new have we learned about Nana other than her occasionally trying to be a try-hard meme queen?
You get nothing!
This isn't like with, say, Chiu, where we got to see her develop a snarky side over time, as Nana has just felt like a character who has actively tried to fade into the background. Thus, an exchange like this is very much appreciated for both characters. It gives them something to do, and moreover, is likely going to close out Zachary's arc for this series, which means we can finally move on to Chokine, or preferably some actual new villains who can progress the plot and develop the Shoki gang's motivations. Now, as for the actual content of the scene, it was decent enough stuff, as it did show Nana's unrelenting kindness in spite of knowing that this guy was an enemy who was refusing her help.
どこが厚着なんだ。可愛いおへそが出てんだろ。
よし、警察。わかった。
In the end, though, he ended up walking off after Nana kind of overstepped her bounds and told the guy to give up on his evil ways, all the while taking her handkerchief with him. Later, he of course launched an attack, choosing, surprisingly enough, an older dude. Like, yeah, for once, they didn't choose anyone who was really all that cute or anything, just some plain old dude, which is a bit of a nice change up. I mean, it's not as though I just really relate with that old dude or anything like that. Anyway, he created a massage chair monster, which the Precure all confronted and engaged. Uta, of course, tried to take it on directly, but it quickly managed to retaliate and... Hey, Mako P wants to know when it's going to be her turn. Yeah, if you ever needed proof that this was written by the daughter of the very trolly Toshiki Inoue, there you go. But yeah, after some needlessly good Sakuga, Zachary got more excuses to want to switch sides when he saw Nana's determination, which really didn't amount to much as her barrier was broken, but still made for effort. In the end, Meryl managed to stop the monster, while Prune really did nothing throughout this whole exchange, and the original trio used their finisher. After the battle, Zachary again fainted from overwork, which led to probably one of the more meaningful moments for Nana.
お前なんか嫌いだ。
For a bit of a rich spoiled girl like her, that was probably one of the first, if not the first time anyone has said that they hated her. I mean, when you get down to it, Nana has tried and likely lived up to everyone's expectations of her, but that of course wouldn't mean anything to a guy who actually tries to act as their enemy. Now of course this didn't wreck Nana or anything, but it also clearly shook her a little. And again, this is just further proof that Zachary has been the better arc villain of the series, as there are at least some layers to this character. Hell, he even ended up regretting what he said while still holding her handkerchief. Anyway, the Precure returned to the Cafe Glitter, where Tanaka just kind of had to act as a parallel to the work-ridden Zachary by needlessly just doing more work on what was supposed to be his day off. And in fact, the episode ended with him seeming rather ecstatic to learn that the Precure screwed up a lot of his usual jobs, and therefore he had a lot of cleanup to do.
私の仕事は私にしかできませんから。
Kya masochism, same diff, right? Anyway, as a Tanaka episode, this is just kind of meh, but as a Nana and Zachary episode, this is pretty great. The two actually had one of the more meaningful exchanges of this whole series that highlight the importance of idols in the lives of guys like Zachary. And while it's certainly a lot less relevant, I would say that Tanaka's issues did at least act as a nice foil to Zachary's stuff. The obvious big takeaway from this episode was showing how people approach their work in different ways. There's also going to be those types who can't just not do anything and do need stimulus, while others try to go at their own pace. There's nothing wrong with either approach, and people should just stick with what they feel the most comfortable with. For Tanaka, while he probably should take things at least a little easier, it was admirable to see how much work he had put in for the Precure, and how much of their idle activities really just hinged on his efforts. Conversely, Zachary has been the victim of some very unfair overworking because of both Chokine and the show's producers. Thus, seeing him find at least a brief bit of respite from Nana was touching to see. It gave the Blue Cure something to do after being heavily sidelined for much of the series, and actually see a vulnerable side to her when, in spite of all of her efforts, Zachary still proved to be a bad guy. Yeah, kind of ironically enough, because he did share some similarities with Tanaka, he just couldn't give up on his job. Now, of course, it would help if we actually understood the villain's motivations, but that's more of an ongoing issue with the show rather than this episode specifically. Because overall, not only was this one of the funnier, or at least more memeable episodes, this is also a much needed Nana-focused episode that also is helping to wind things down for Zachary's arc, which will then hopefully open the doors to finally developing the villains a little more. Tanaka might have not wanted a day off, but thanks to him stepping back a little, we probably got a much more important episode in the long run. Thanks for watching, and if it just so happens to be your day off when you're watching this, well, you could do worse than watching some of our other videos, right? We've got plenty of content on this channel, as well as some other projects in the works right now, especially as one show in our rotation is coming to an end soon. Look forward to Princession Orchestra tomorrow. Until then, though, for now, my friends, and if you'll excuse me, I'm just gonna get ready for my own little vacation in a few months. Yeah, I am actually kind of will see you that way.